Hey guys, uh, I'm in a somewhat somber mood, which is certainly unusual for lately. A lot of physical pain, and I have the chronic pain, of course, from body pain and such. You already know that. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna put this. I have a hard time figuring out how I'm gonna hold these phones up. I don't have all the. Thanks for being here, by the way. I don't have all the camera holders and equipment and stuff. So I often experiment with other ways to do things and, trying this idea of just holding the phone up by just putting it in a coffee cup might work. I have no idea what the finished video is going to look like, good, bad, or ugly, but I need something that's doable for me. So maybe this is going to be the doable thing. Uh, as you may have figured out, I won't say probably did, over the last month or 2 months or 3 months, I've been very manic thanks to my mental illnesses. Uh, so today I don't feel manic. I don't know if it's the quote unquote end of the mania period. I'm cautious about that kind of thing. Anyway, just a few thoughts. I often deliver videos where I just give you a few eclectic thoughts. Uh, feel as though I mean, it's my company. I'm the only one here, but I sometimes use the we, the Queen's we or whatever. I think we're redefining the channel, what it is. It started out as an interview channel for business leaders, nonprofits, and artists of all kinds. I think we're becoming a much more general channel because of a lot of factors. Number one, getting people to be on the show when I'm not offering it to them for free, which I am trying to do fewer and fewer free shows. Trying to practice saying to people we no longer do free shows, which isn't really true yet, but I'm trying to stand my ground more often, and I've talked about that at length about how much pain and self inflicted resentment I feel for having given away hundreds of shows over the years. There's a long story, complicated story there, but I won't go into all that. So now, hopefully, we're on a path to do some paid shows so that I can pay the rent and all those other things I mentioned in all the other videos. But the flavor of the channel is changing. I think it's going to be, and I don't think this is necessarily better or less better than anybody else. I just think it's a direct reflection of my almost extreme eclectic nature. I'm interested in just an almost endless number of things. Uh, yeah, I won't try to go into detail on that. I'm interested in almost an endless number of things, and so we'll probably do shows about lots of things. Some of them will be common things like history of the world and food reviews. Some will be modern things like what's happening with AI. And I think there I might niche temporarily to chatbots and text to video. Those are the two areas that I need to learn the most. But also, I think I'm not above doing shows on topics that are so unusual and so unheard of. You know, I mean, let's just make up a fictitious example. Let's say anthropologists or scientists discovered a new animal somewhere in the world, like in Siberia. I know they're going to try to bring back the woolly mammoth. Let's say they found a brand new animal that was still alive from the past. The oddity of that and the newity is not a word, but the oddity and the other stuff would attract me. Or say they found out a new wrinkle, in some historic fact, like when Lincoln was assassinated, his guard at the Ford Theater, as you might already know, was a pretty heavy drinker, and he actually left his post early in the evening, went across the street to drink for a long time, during which President Lincoln was assassinated. So what if we uncovered documents that he was in on it, that he didn't just do that because of his alcoholism, but he did it because he was in on the assassination attempt? Because some theories are it was a conspiracy of a small number of Southern sympathizers, So something like that. I mean, anything that's unusual, not anything, but most things. I'm fascinated with science. I'm fascinated with the singularity, with the upcoming quantum computing. I saw the CEO of might have been NVIDIA the other day with what might have been a quote unquote personal portable quantum computer. That was fascinating. Yeah, so there isn't much in the world that I'm not interested in. I'm not particularly interested in sports, although football can get under my skin. Uh, I'm interested in politics, but I feel like you have to be really careful to mix politics and television. It just changes your channel in a way that I don't like. It's like reading a short story that's got so much topical information, it quickly becomes dated. If you'd written the story in a way that was more timeless, it would be usable over more decades. But it's not that I'm above making political comments. God knows I've made some doozies, and the current political climate in the United States is just so painful and so egregious and such a violation of humanity. It just gets way, way under my skin. But so yeah, so that's the drill on this thing right here. I have a real hard time learning technology. Takes me years, sometimes even decades to learn something. I have to just be around a long, long time to learn it. I feel like I just learned something on the little 15-inch computer that somebody let me borrow. I don't even know what I mean, but just, there's things that someone in my position should have known and should be very obvious to them, that everybody probably out there assumes I would, God forsake, already know, and that I don't or I'm not comfortable with. And the other, to extend that, I'm really an odd duck. I mean, I do things in my physical day. I position things on the desk, and I I I practice certain ways of doing things that are just very strange and very not just strange, but the context around them is odd. I just I don't know, but I am what I am. In order to go forward, I got to be somebody, and this is the person I can be that has doability. So I love you guys so much. You have no idea. I just yeah, and I also of the thousands of ideas I have for our channel, I want to tell more about my personal life, not just the bad stuff and not just when I'm manic, but the other stuff too. Like, I'll give you an example. For a while, I taught Zen, right? So I studied under Adyashanti for a long time. I mistakenly thought at one point that Adyashanti had made me one of his downline spiritual leaders. That was a very ugly mess between he and I. And then I later became a spiritual leader myself, teaching classes and such. And I participated not only with Adyashanti, but one guy that I can't remember who taught in Cupertino, who had been a rogue, defrocked priest, Zen priest. And I studied briefly with a real Zen center in Japantown. And that person who ran that at that time, Cornelius, was surprisingly adamant that I not teach Zen because I had not been approved by the Soto Zen Association in the United States. So, and of course, other people said, just change the name a bit, man. It's not a big deal. Or, you know, call it something else and all that. And I don't know that I ever got comfortable with that. I had written a book a few years before in which I called that spiritual practice Zen. In my classes, I referred to it as Zen. And I couldn't take the leap, rightly or wrongly, or would have been easier for me possibly to say, well, this practice is called Potterism, or this practice is called something else, and just masking Zen for something else. Yeah, so I don't know about all that, and that never got resolved, and I stopped teaching out of respect for Cornelius. And for the thousands and thousands of years of Zen tradition, because I did study the history of Zen in China and Japan. So I would like to teach something, you know. Again, I really would, online or in my local area. But I think I'm going to have to just do it in a certain way. And when I make these videos with you, I'm with me talking to me, no other guest. I work things out in my head, or the answers arrive that I don't think I did much to find them. They just arrived during the conversation. So here's an idea. I do a class where I just come out and say, look, I have this history with Zen. I seem to prefer calling what I do Zen. Uh, I'm not a formal Zen teacher. I have almost no formal Zen practice, even as a student, let alone a teacher. But I haven't found it. I believe, based on my own studies, Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, and other books that what I'm doing is Zen. I think Zen is a very, very broad thing, way, way broad. And of course, it's by other names, so too. And so, yeah, so all that, and just say that to people, right? So I may do that. Also, I wrote a seminar years ago called Being, Listening, and Speaking Dynamics, and I want to reinvigorate that that series. It's a very long class. I think it's 18 weeks or something. And I want to also invigorate the cost of it because I need the money. And then, of course, as you guys already know, because I've been pushing it lately, I'm writing a new book. And I want to, in this book, I'm kind of going so far by the edict that the day you start writing a book is the day you start promoting the book. And I've been doing that. And so far, even though it's minuscule steps, I feel like it's going well. I feel like what I'm saying to promote it is working, even though, of course, I know it'll take years to do that. That's why we do it this way. I also think that the thoughts I've had in my head about what I'm going to write down and the way I'm going to do it and the format of the book, I like. I'm not having a problem so far to say, well, this book's not working out or it's going to be harder to write than I thought. None of that's happening at this point. So all that's going on. I love having the different chat bots on the show to be interviewed, like Gemini and Chat G and Claude and Grok and whoever I'm forgetting. I'm surprised at how quickly they stop talking. Seems like, I don't know, but in my experience, certainly for many, many, many times, is that they, after 10, 20 minutes, they're done, man. They either start giving you hallucination answers or try to do something else. Anyway, I stood up because my pain was so bad. A lot of work to do tonight, a lot of clerical work. I'm trying to hire a VA. I need money desperately. I'm tired of pussyfooting around about it with you guys. I have a $400 and some telephone debt that has to be paid. I'm $500 behind in the rent. Tried twice to buy groceries and couldn't buy them, once at $97, once at even $47. So I had to borrow money from people to buy groceries. I don't expect very many people to react to helping me in that way, but I am surprisingly resentful about that, given that I've given away hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows over the years. I just feel like first of all those people I helped should be willing to at the very least consider, if not actually do it, send me something. I typically have asked people for a $50 Amazon food card. And some of the answers I've had have been just deplorable. My dementia's kicking in, so I don't remember what else I wanted to say. I cannot figure out whether or not on these godforsaken videos, whether I'm allowed to put my phone number. But, I don't know. I keep seeing mixed messages. Seems like some people can, some people can't. I don't understand it. I'll be doing what I do with almost everything, which is just making shows about it. I've often requested lately that all companies, and especially social media platforms, be required to have an audio version of their terms of service and community guidelines available for the public. And not just for disabled people who can't read very well, but you know, any person who wants to know really wants to know the community guidelines or terms of service of a company they're posting in could just put that audio on in the car while they're driving and figure it out. Because TikTok bumped me, as I say a lot. They bumped my lives. And at the time that they bumped my lives, I didn't know shit about lives. I didn't know anything about them. I found out, to my somewhat delight, that people will sometimes give you money for doing a live. So I did my live for, I don't know how long, 10 days maybe, and I made about $30. And I think I have to wait to take it out of the TikTok financial bank or whatever it is, but at least it's sitting there. And I have made so little money in the last year or two. Just hundreds of dollars up against and tens of thousands of dollars. That to make like 25 or $30 doing 10 nights of TikTok lives was a big deal for me. And I was looking forward to the day that it got large enough that TikTok would allow me to withdraw it and go buy groceries. And of course, that never happened because I got a note one day, well, you're suspended. And it just, it deeply pissed me off. And I did a show, one of the last one or two, that I was very political, and I imagine without any proof that the MAGA bastards on TikTok reported me to the quasi-neutral Chinese leaders at ByteDance and said, "You got to get this guy out of here." So, just very fucked up. And the other thing I don't know about is swearing. I've been swearing more lately than ever in my life, and it just seems to, in some perverted way, it helps me get through the day because I'm in so much immediate, constant pain, physical body pain, especially. But I used to tell people that I have, like, I think I was telling people for a while, well, I've got 11 disabilities. And then I started saying, well, I've got 13 disabilities or disorders. And so later I thought, well, it'd be responsible to actually sit down and list all the goddamn stuff you've got rather than just saying these numbers out of the blue. And so one day, might have been this morning, I started listing everything, and it's like more like 19 or something. It's ridiculous. If I look at myself independently of myself, like as someone else looking through the window, I'm like, what the fuck? This guy has diabetes and arthritis and two heart conditions and 5 or 6 or 7 kinds of mental illness and 6 different variations of the nose picking disorder and God knows what else. Half of it I can't even remember. I'm going to try to make a list somewhere, tape it to the wall so that when I remember things that I don't remember, I can eventually make a real list that's the actual number of things. It's crazy. So I don't know how somebody like me, gets through the day. I don't know how I get up in the morning and do anything. And yet I do. And I'm somehow proud of doing it, which our stepmother told us we weren't allowed to be proud about anything. And I did say it's rather awkward to say it, and it's awkward for me to say it, but like in this conversation, I'm noticing I'm finally in a place where you can see that I am well spoken. I hide that almost all the time. I actively do things in my behavior very actively, very assertively to make sure that people do not have a clue how intelligent I am, how successful I am. That's how deep the messaging from my stepmother was. And I'm going to repeat something that I've said 10, 20, 30 times lately. When we were kids, I swear to God, Lord is my witness, when we were kids, she would she didn't talk to us, she didn't train us, she didn't contribute to us in verbally or anything. I mean, she did the laundry and the meals and that, but she would take the time many days and look at us, look at my goddamn body and face and say, you know that you're never going to amount to anything, right? And that surprises me. I mean, I never heard such a thing. Why would you do that? Why would you say that? Where's the upside? Where's the upside to doing that to your kids, your stepkids? And she, of course, you already know, I met her when I was like 2 because my mom died when I was 2, and stepmom came along in about a half, 6 months, so 2.5. But she really, for real, threw my brother Martin and I down the stairs in a very tall uh, residential building. I guess you'd call it a house. It was a very old style, very tall house. And she told me many decades later, I would have been 3 at that time. She told me probably back when I was 50 on the phone. And thank God I was in a Christian forgiving mood that day, because that's probably what she deserved, to be forgiven. She said, you know, I did that because as a stepmother, as a young lady, marrying this guy and being saddled with these 2 boys, I had no clue how to raise you kids. And so I just tried to kill you. You know, I said, yeah, don't worry about it. It's under the bridge. You know, and for me, it's not under the bridge, of course. It's with me every fucking day. As I sit here talking to you, in my mind, I'm falling down those stairs. And I always have the thought, you know, why and what? What did I do to make her do this? I mean, I live with that every minute. I live with my rape every minute. I live with the fact that the rapist, I got a clue somehow in that hotel room that he wasn't done attempting to rape me or rape me, however it happened, but rather he was now going to switch to attempting to murder me. I figured it out somehow without either one of us saying anything. And so I realized then, okay, I'm on this bed, I'm being fucked in the ass, but I got to get out of this room. I got to run as fast as I can. You know, that shit is with me every goddamn fucking minute. And do I think about it every minute? No. But do I think about it most minutes or a lot of minutes? Hell yeah. Uh, Certainly with me a lot of every day. And those are not the only ones. I mean, my step grandfather hit me with a stick, which I sometimes materialize as a baseball bat when I was like 2 or 2.5. Hit me as a 2.5-year-old. You know, when I realized that for the first time, I was in an apartment in San Jose, and this is what I was doing. I was writing my Zen book. It was the middle of the night, and at that time, I don't know what year that would have been, but late 90s, early 2000s. I had this ability at that time to sit at the computer and write and turn off all the lights, you know, open a file, open a text file, sit at the computer in the dark, put my fingers on the keys because I was trained as a secretary by choice decades before, and literally channel my brain onto the page by typing very fast. And I wrote that book in a shockingly short amount of time. the old-fashioned way by typing every goddamn letter, right? But one day, and I worked on it day and night, one time during the day when I was writing a little more less speedily, I remembered that stick coming at me and knocking me over, and I fell out of my chair in the apartment, which would have been, I don't know, 40, 50 years later. I literally fell off the chair. And I remember just minutes later, after physically falling off the chair, I called my therapist and I said, this is what just transpired. And we started talking through it over the weeks. Either other people are just not saying what they've been through, which I think is very common. Could approach 100%. I don't know, but I think most people look at society and they say, okay, the way to get through this thing here, society, is just to say, when people ask, things are going good, and just keep all the trauma and psychological shit and physical problems with my family and such, and divorce and etc. Keep that all to myself, and I'll just go through my days. I think that's how most people live. So if you want to get back to Zen and talk about consciousness, sometimes you could present consciousness as having levels. Of course, I hate the word levels now. It's so extremely overused for a while. But, most people are not even conscious. They're not even regular level conscious. They're not, they're just masking up so thickly. It's a mask upon a mask upon a mask. And you become a Zen teacher, and this is why I think things like Zen are important and why I think they're contributing. Old-fashioned Zen masters used to try to get people to a point where they were enlightened, right? Well, shit, nowadays, we're so many levels removed from enlightened. You can just get somebody to wake up and smell the coffee, so to speak. You're making progress. People have gone backwards so deeply and so completely and so much. It's crazy. Most people don't even know they're there. They're on their phone, trying to just experience their lives as them not even existing. If you're sitting there on your phone, and I do it, of course, all day, you can, on some level, pretend that you don't even exist. You're just a watcher watching others. You don't have to you don't have to act like you know how to interface with the world, let alone all the other, lots and lots, dozens and dozens and dozens of levels of consciousness that come after that. Compassion, lowering the amount of pride one has or something. I don't know. It's just so, the world is going backwards so fast and such in a big way. For the United States to become what it's become, to have it happen is just, to me, just completely devastatingly sad. And that, to me, that's not connected to what's going on in China, because I think I really like China. I think they've done a good job of moving past a traditional communist methodology, which, of course, there's tons and tons and tons of. The Communist Party does govern China as a dictatorship, but somehow people like Zhang or Zhen or whatever his name is have figured out, well, okay, we're going to get farther in the world if we put something in place that mimics some aspect of capitalism, that makes our country modern, that does this, that does that. And they've done that. If you look at what the infrastructure of China looks like right now, we're a laughing stock. But we don't think so. We think we're the greatest. How can we? I mean, our bridges are falling apart. Our hospitals are destroyed. There isn't even, I can't even point to one aspect of American society where we're even close to being anything, not even good or not even almost good, but not even below standard good. We rank 46 in the world in math. Finland and South Korea are doing such a better job. I mean, it's not just that we're not the greatest, we're not even close to being almost good in any category I can think of, with the possible exception of having the biggest goddamn military and the highest number of military bases around the world that anybody ever thought of. And so that whatever that is, that way of being a country, if you look at it from anywhere, that's a perfect prescription for that country being a huge dictator. I mean, with all the bases and the trillions of dollars we spend on defense and the hyper advanced equipment and military things we've made and maintain and deepen, and we could take over the fucking world in 20 minutes, probably. I mean, China's trying to build a military now, but we are in many ways, in my opinion, a very fascist country. I think we've redefined fascism. I think we've made it quote unquote better. This is the improved fascist version led by as you know, a very tiny oligarchy of hyper rich people, 8 or 10 or 15 families that are taking everything. I made a couple of jokes the other day, and I didn't say them the way I designed the jokes because it was too much. I thought it would get me in trouble. But the bottom line was that in some non-existent oligarchy, the oligarchs decide, okay, we're going to pass laws and we're going to make situations in which every single thing in this country, on this particular planet, whatever planet that is now going to belong to the oligarchies. Every plant, like in the joke I said, if you have half a bottle of tartar sauce in the back of your fridge, the value of that and also the physical object now belongs to the oligarchy. These people are so hyper eternally greedy that there is nothing that could even be created by God herself that would satisfy their greed. I mean, Jeff Bezos has a boat, a yacht, that is bigger than any fucking yacht that anybody ever thought of by magnitudes. And it's got a fleet of yachts that goes around with it. What in God's name do you need? Why do you need that? Why do you need that? Why? I cannot figure this out. Why do rich people have to have such an extreme amount of money and things and more money and more things? If you've got $300 billion, why would you need 50 more billion? Why would you need Congress to take away the Medicare from 17 million people, which is only about what, $50 billion, and then distribute it to 8 or 15 families? What's the point? What's the point? What could possibly be the point? I can't even imagine. Yes, it's a numbers game. Every wealthy, hyper wealthy person is playing a numbers game. They get satisfaction supposedly from Yesterday I was worth 402 trillion. So, and I got to go to a cocktail party tonight, and there might be somebody there richer than me. So today I've got to figure out a way to make, another 3.6 trillion. So when I walk in that room tonight, I'll be the highest, whatever, have the most money of anybody in that room. Or, I mean, really, really, that's what's important. And the rest of us are out here. I got a call the other day. You guys know my drill. I've been begging for money. I'm going to tell you something you're not going to like, but I get a call from some nonprofit around the world, care or something, who help, I don't know, disabled somebody or others do something. And, I could have easily hung up the phone. I could easily hung up the phone to say, well, I not only don't have anything, but I have so little, I'm begging other people to give me their stuff. So I sure as hell, it's almost immoral for me to have then accepted the call, stopped my day long enough to listen to this kid ask me for money, and then give him like 25 bucks of what little money I had left. But you know what? People are hurting. Everybody is fucking hurting. Everybody, not just me. If we don't help each other, I mean, really help. And if we don't get used to being able to ask each other for help, we're going to be so fucked and so lonely and so dead. It's just really ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We have to learn. I'm going to stop soon because the phone's, but I said once to somebody, and I was proud to have come up with this. I said I would, I was inspired by Robert Kennedy Sr., who said something once. He was dreaming of a day when the world was like this. And I thought somebody asked me something. I said, I'm dreaming of a day when this happens for each homeless person in the world, in the United States. When a person is homeless, in front of them is a very long line of other humans who are there to stand in line and ask that homeless person, what can I do for you? Just to come up one by one like a kind of psychological soup line. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? And the reality is the opposite. I've been homeless many times. I talked to homeless people a lot. The most poignant thing I've heard from several homeless people is, and then, of course, being homeless is terrible, but many of them will say, I don't mind being homeless. It's just that I can't stand it that people will not look at me. When I meet somebody on the street, when I'm going north and they're coming south, it's not that they won't stop. It's not that they won't say hello. It's certainly not that they won't reach in their wallet and give me $1. It's that they will not look at me. That's what hurts the most. And I've, of course, experienced that. This is a planet. We're on a planet. We're something called humans, and we live here. And, we've been here for a while, hundreds of thousands of years. You think, to God forsake, we wouldn't just try to rape and murder and uh, devalue and take everyone's possessions? Why is that the overriding human behavior? I give up. I'm out of here, dog. Love you. Love you guys. Take care.